In this video, I want to go over the 7 beginner photography mistakes I made and how to solve them. Now let's get inside, it's absolutely freezing. Good morning everyone, it's lovely to see all your smiling faces again. Now when I first started photography, there were 7 key mistakes I made all the time that would just leave me frustrated, infuriated, and just being like, oh, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I solve these problems? Today, I want to go over those 7 mistakes and hopefully help you solve these problems that I had personally all the time. Now do make sure you stick around to the end because there is some bonus tips I want to give you that a lot of other people don't seem to be sharing that I think are really, really important. So number 1 that I think is the most important is I always shot at the lowest f-stop. So when I was a beginner, I used to watch these guys on YouTube, Peter McKinnon and the likes and all these people, and they used to say, put it at the lowest f-stop to get that crispy bokeh. Ooh, yeah, it's gotta look beautiful. And I was doing that, and what I was noticing is that my photos weren't really coming out sharp, and they didn't really look like I wanted them to look. And there definitely is a place for this. Like if you're shooting a lot of portraits, people photography, product photography, sometimes shooting at the lowest f-stop is definitely going to give you a better result. But for me personally, I wanted to shoot more travel and landscape and the odd portrait here and there. So I really needed to be shooting at that higher f-stop between somewhere like f8 to f16 to really make everything in that image really, really sharp and crisp and in focus. And that was the key that I was sort of missing at the beginning of my career. So number 2, I still do sometimes to this day, it's wonky horizons and bad composition. So oftentimes when I first started shooting, I would be walking around a city or on a hike or something, and I saw something beautiful and I thought, wow, this is gonna make a great photo. And you don't really take the time to sort of take the photo, you just sort of look, chick, and that's it. But what I was noticing is I'd get home and be like, that's not really how I remember it. So what I started to do was really slow down, and if I saw something really beautiful and I thought, oh wow, this is gonna be a good photo, I would sort of take my time and be like, okay, what can I sort of include in this composition that's gonna make it better? And is the horizon level? That's a really important one because sometimes if you're on travel photography and you're walking around a city street, you might see something really beautiful and there'll be a post that's straight, and you just sort of put your camera there and take the photo, go home and then notice that it's a tiny bit out. And by the time you sort of straighten it, you've cropped out a third of your image and you're losing really key essential details that you wanted in your image. So a big one for me in travel photography was I was too shy to ask people for a photo. Now, if you travel to these beautiful places or even around your hometown, you know that the one thing that stands out is people. The people making pasta, the people performing on the street, people. And when I was first beginning out, I didn't want to go up to them and say, hey, excuse me, do you mind if I take a photo? Because I was just too shy and I didn't want to get in their way. I felt uncomfortable. But what I really noticed is over time, if you just ask these people, most people are sort of like, wow, he wants to take a photo of me? Like, why? I'm just an ordinary person. Why would he want a photo of me? So number 4 is getting correct exposure for your subject. Now, if you read off your camera's meter or the histograms, a lot of the times it's going to leave your subject looking underexposed because your subject might not take up the whole image, it might only be a portion of the image. So what I started to do was expose for my subject. So whether I was clipping in the darks or clipping in the whites were just blown out in the sky, I wouldn't really care. I was only exposing for the person or the house or whatever it was, and I was finding that my photos were just looking so much better. So make sure you expose for the subject, whatever it may be. Now, if you are enjoying this video, please make sure you leave a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It would mean a lot to me and really help me grow on YouTube. So number 5 is my images were coming out a tiny bit blurry. So if you remember from earlier, I used to walk around these towns and villages or go hiking, and I just used to take photos very quickly. And a lot of the times I would sort of turn around and take a photo, but as I'm turning, I'm taking the photo. So I'm having movement. My shutter speed wasn't up quite high enough to compensate for that. So if you are in a rush and you have to take these photos, make sure your shutter speed is up high enough, because even if the subject isn't moving, you might be moving, and that's making the image blurry. So number 6 is only shooting when it's clear and not worrying about light. When I first started taking photos, I thought the best photo you could take was when it was a clear day and that blue sky was just looking so blue, so crisp, so blue, so beautiful. I really thought that was the best. Eventually, when I got home, I'd look at these images and being like, I swear it looked better when I was there. Why is this not good? I don't understand. Eventually you realize that sun shining in the bright sky in the middle of the day is probably not the best time to take a photo. Problem is that the best time to take a photo is probably gonna be not the most comfortable time. It's either gonna be when there's poor weather, it's sunrise, or it's sunset. So at sunset, you're drinking beers, watching the sunset, having dinner, whatever. At sunrise, you wanna be sleeping, you don't wanna be out hiking, trying to meet a mountain point at sunrise. And the last one is bad weather. You know, when it's cold, it's wet, it's snowing, it's cloudy. It's not gonna feel amazing to be out there, but the images, are gonna be good. So number 7 is not taking photos of boring subjects, boring landmarks, even if it adds to the story. So the best example I can give to this is when you're out hiking for the day and you're thinking, wow, I can't wait to get to the top of the mountain to take this photo. It's gonna be really beautiful. But the photos you're missing out on are the ones as you're walking up. Photos of you passing a struggling hiker as they're sitting down, catching their breath. The other people you're walking with, taking photos of them struggling behind you with the views in the background. You'll always remember the sunset, watching it from the beach or from the top of the mountain, whatever it may be, but you'll never remember the rustic spots. They're the most important photos you need to take. So if you made it this far, thank you for watching. I'm just gonna add 2 bonus tips to top off the video. So number 1 is stop worrying about gear. It's not important. Of course, every camera manufacturer is gonna be saying how you need to get the latest gear to make your photography really elevate to the next level. That's gonna make you go professional. But here's the secret, it's not, and it doesn't matter. Whether you're using an iPhone, an old DSLR, film camera, a brand new Sony A1, whatever it is, just shoot. Just shoot with what you have. The best camera you have is the one you have on you. So bonus tip number 2 is for the editing process. A lot of times when I was first starting out, I was just banging up the contrast, banging up the clarity, the saturation, the vibrance, putting in those curves, doing whatever, and then looking at it being like, this is the best image. Now when I look at it, I think, wow, that is really crap. So a lot of the people you can learn from online will just tell you to bang up that contrast, bang up that clarity and make it so crisp, but this isn't correct. You need to find your own style. So experiment a little bit. Maybe you do like that really saturated, contrasty look. Maybe you need to learn about color grading and other different factors in the editing process. Now, I just opened up a print store online, so I'll leave a link down below if you want to purchase any prints to help support my channel. Other than that, see you next time, guys.